The BS Report is a free-flowing conversation that occasionally touches on mature subjects.
First of all,
This is the BS Report with Bill Simmons.
it might be cool, I don't know. And if it's not, I don't care.
The BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Bill Simmons works for ESPN. He's also named the Sports Guy, and he writes a comical sports column. He must be a popular dude.
The BS Report.
It's got a real dirty sound, like a rusty steak knife cutting through a well-aged steak.
Now.
Here's Bill Simmons.
Welcome to the BS Report. Taping this on a Tuesday. It's running Wednesday. From ESPN, a guy that I've always wanted to have on, and I don't know why it hasn't happened yet, but he's here now. Trent Dilfer, what's happening?
Great to be here, man.
What a pleasure.
I'm fired up.
You're doing great stuff. I mean, I really, you never know with the former athletes turned TV guys, but the thing I love about what you do is that you bust your butt and you study the tape and you do all that stuff. How much time do you spend preparing?
I appreciate you saying that. I try, Well, first to answer your question, I think certain guys that do tape during the week, and I don't know how many of us actually do, you hear about 30, 40 hours. That's ridiculous. One, we don't have access to it like we did as players. I've kind of created a nice little niche where I have access to probably 10 hours of hard study of the film a week. Usually pick the Monday night matchup and do a 4-game, sometimes longer breakdown of each team. And what you get by doing that matchup is you get, obviously their prior opponents, so you get a feel for the offense, defense, special teams of the teams they've played getting ready for the Monday night game. And then I'll do a project, probably 4 projects a year. I did the Jets offense this year. I did the Patriots offense this year. I love the Saints. I think Sean Payton's a genius, so I'll always go back and refresh my brain with some Saints stuff. And then I'll pick a defensive team that intrigues me and look at them a little bit throughout the year. So 10 hours a week film study, then all the other auxiliary stuff you do, whether it's reading, talking to coaches, GMs, trying to get to some college practices to watch some of the young prospects. But yeah, I work really hard at it. And the reason is, Bill, is because I never thought I would do this. Yeah. I hated the media when I played.
Why'd you hate the media?
One, immaturity on my part, to be honest with you. A little defensive at times. Felt like I got labeled something early in my career. No matter what I did, it wasn't going to leave me. So a little baby chip on my shoulder. But then I'm also kind of from the Belichickian school of mess with them a little bit. Say a little, but make sure you control the interview. Make sure you control the themes of any time you're with the media. And they resisted that many times. So I never thought I'd be doing this. So when I said I did, in fact, I fought adamantly against going into TV with my agent, with my wife, with my friends. But then I saw a little niche of being able to kind of get off on helping people better appreciate a game that I love. And really that's what it comes down to is I love this game. I love the tactics. I love the emotion. I love the drama. And I think that, you could help the viewer, especially the housewife of 4 that's watching a pregame show and she knows she's going to have to watch with her husband. She's cooking dinner and, to give her a little tidbit on a show when she watches the game, she goes, oh, yeah, that Aaron Rodgers, he does throw the ball quick. Or, yeah, that defense, they do get a lot of hats to the ball. And, I think that's fun for me.
How did you said that you weren't sure you wanted to do this. What were your other options at that point? Were you thinking about coaching? What were you?
Yeah, I had a lot of coaching offers. Still get them. I because I was a guy that studied the game, and I think the best coaches are guys that were average players or better than average, but really studied the game, and when their bodies fell apart, became cerebral at the game. That's kind of my story. Mm-hmm. I think some GMs and coaches recognize that in me. But I didn't want to do. I have 3 girls, 14, 11, and 8. If I had boys, I think I'd be coaching. But with girls, they can't be around the locker room. They really can't be part of your football life.
Yeah.
I didn't think that was fair to them. I made a lot of money, to be completely honest. I mean, a ton. I was one of the lucky ones, had a bunch of good contracts and didn't have to do anything. but I wanted to be involved in football. I thought real hard about trying to fast track in management and, taking a high-level scouting job, then personnel job, then becoming a general manager. But once again, I couldn't have my kids around the office, and I got a superstar volleyball player who's 14, and I want to, go around the country and watch her compete, and hopefully she'll be an Olympian or something like that. And I don't want to be in the office evaluating the right guard when she's playing on the national team.
Right. So you dipped your foot into it. Did you know it was going to end up becoming what it became?
Had no idea. I don't know how politically correct this is for another network, but, NFL Network did a nice job. They kind of gave me a chance, let me get into the business a little bit, and I learned a ton from some of the producers there. And Rich Eisen was a guy that, just really taught me a lot and got me excited about talking football and encouraged me to, teach people when I talked and was on camera, radio, or whatever it is, and then came here at ESPN, and so lucky to work with Boomer and Trey Wingo and the producers there. Just learning how to better communicate a complex message, but to be able to get it in terms that people can kind of wrap their brains around. And then, like I said, just hopefully I can say something that they go, gosh, I was watching that game and Dilfer told me to watch, the right guard, how, his body's always in position because of that. The quarterback can step into his throw. And, Drew Brees, man, boy, is he good. And why is he good? Because that Jari Evans just stones people at the line of scrimmage. If that makes them better enjoy watching the game, then I feel like I did my job.
On Sundays you're just 13 straight hours? You in a war room? Are you home?
Dude, it's a beast. Yeah, I red eye in Saturday nights from the West Coast. I live in Northern California.
Oh, okay.
And so I red eye in, kind of shower, shave, drink some coffee, show up to the war room with, Boomer, TJ, Chris, Key, all the guys, and we get after it. I watch every game. I have an assistant who works with me who's a great, smart, young football kid, and he knows what I'm looking for, so he'll draw my attention to a certain game, a theme in a game. I'm trying to watch a bunch. I'm taking notes. We got this next level department here at ESPN. These people are awesome. They really are awesome. And, they're shooting us things throughout the 4 o'clock games. Can keep your eye on. And then after you kind of digest it all, you go on TV and talk about it for the next couple of days.
I didn't know I didn't know where you lived, so I don't know if you maybe snuck home and had a war room.
Oh, gosh, no.
That's a tough red eye, by the way.
It is a tough red eye, and it does wear on you. This is 3 years now, so it's getting to me a little bit. But, the good thing about this place, and, some people bang on ESPN and whatnot, there's a lot of energy.
Yeah.
I work with really great people, and I'm so busy that the time flies. And, I'm working, 14, 16-hour days sometimes when I'm here, and there's not a lot of breaks in between. But, gosh, you're doing football. It's not like it's that hard.
Because you might have broken the record for most hits in one season this year.
Oh, man.
And I'd like to add this podcast to the list, but you're on, I'll turn the radio on, you're with this guy or that guy, you're on ESPN News, you're on ESPN, you're on SportsCenter. And you have the same energy level every time. This is why I can't do that stuff, because you'd catch me on ESPN News, I'd be tired, my coffee hadn't kicked in yet. Like, somehow you have that energy for each thing.
I'm a caffeine freak. It's not a good thing, but I wear out the coffee machines here in Bristol. And I really, I do. A lot of guys say they love football. I love football. My whole life paradigm is shaped around football.
Right.
And I'm a geek. Steve Young just kills me. I'm a total football dork. I go home, I study it, I think about it, I talk about it, I watch. I never get sick of it. I get sick of the politics of it, obviously, like everybody else. But I can't get. One of my dream days is taking my kids to school, having breakfast with my wife, grabbing a workout, and then locking myself in a room where it's dark and just tape. And my notes are crazy. You could never steal my stuff because you couldn't read my notes.
You're like the guy from Beautiful Mind.
Well, yeah, but not smart. I don't try to outwork. I don't want to get into outworking people. I just love it. You know, so the energy when I go on camera, I think, is just out of a passion for, I really think it's cool what I just saw, and hey, I'd love to share with you what I just saw.
Well, we don't have a ton of time because I'm catching you between like 3 hits. But before we get to the playoffs, I wanted to ask you about, you said that you thought Andrew Luck was the best quarterback prospect since John Elway.
Dude.
Why do you say that?
Okay, first of all, I'm sitting in the studio in Bristol talking to you. I'm looking at Elway right now. He's on one of our ESPNU, I think I'm looking at. I was really lucky. I came in 94. Those guys, the Marinos, the Elways, the Favres, Kenny O'Brien, Boomer Esiason, Kelly, were so great to me. And when I started really studying the quarterback position, I'll answer your question, but I think people need to understand, I was so disappointed in my career at the end that I didn't reach my potential. Now, we could talk ad nauseum about, systems and players, and the bottom line is that, I had a great deal of talent, didn't reach my potential.
So why do you think?
There's a lot of reasons. I mean, one, I had this unique opportunity, kind of probably the back stint of my career in Tampa, when physically I was healthy, had some decent people around me, good teams, but I was so disgruntled by the dysfunction of our offense and, let my brain get cluttered with things that didn't matter. Wasn't as professional as I should have been. Baltimore, I won the Super Bowl. I'm the first person to give the defense credit. I was hurt I was big time hurt that whole year, so I kind of played crappy and looked crappy doing it. Get to Seattle, my brain, my professional, it all kind of fits together. I'm ready to go. I played really good for Holmgren the first year there. Start playing really good in 2002 and tear my Achilles tendon. And never was able to, just a shell of my, athletically what I was before that. Didn't trust myself in the pocket. Your instincts go bad. And a lot of reasons, okay? But I didn't reach my potential. That disturbed me. So I was in Seattle that 2002 season when I tore my Achilles. I just started studying quarterbacks. Manning, Brady. Got some old tape from our video guys there and started pulling out every quarterback since 83 and just doing, it's bad video back then. But you can get a feel for who they are. Played against them, obviously, so knew a lot of the guys. And just started kind of this voyage of studying this position. And this is true. Hasselbeck could tell you this. My message to him was not ever do this or don't do that. It was always, or it wasn't ever play this way. It was, here's some mistakes that I made. Don't make the same mistakes. And by the way, I'm watching these other guys play, and this is the commonalities between what they do that makes them special. And I've just kind of maintained that for the last 8 years, that passion of studying the quarterback. So you get to Andrew Luck now. So I have 8 years of studying all the college quarterbacks, all the guys in the league, going back and looking at all these guys since 83, briefly, not in depth, like, 10 game studies, but, knowing them pretty well. And I look at this kid, Andrew Luck, and I don't know if he does one thing better than anybody, but he does not do a single thing bad. There's no flaws in his game. As a person, he's he's smart, he's tough, he's a leader. I say this, he's kind of oh shucks, golly gee guy. When you see him interviewed, he's a straight assassin in between the lines. I get to go up to Palo Alto and watch him practice, and I don't know. I'm not trying to break some scoop here. This guy's the greatest thing since sliced bread, but based on my understanding of the position, what I know goes into it, how I grade it, the work I put into it, he's the best. He's the most complete. Maybe the term I should change this to, maybe I'll do this afternoon. He's the most complete prospect I've ever seen.
Well, when you said it, I did a double take because, even though you haven't been on the podcast before, I knew from other people that we work with how much time you put into this stuff. So for you to say that, you just wouldn't have thrown that out as a soundbite. You actually put thought into that, and you really felt that way. And that made me think, this is kind of a tragedy if he goes to Carolina, right?
He won't. I think there's a couple things to look at here. One, I want to put a side note. Another very gifted player in this draft who I would be saying almost equally good things about is this Blaine Gabbert from Missouri now.
Okay.
We're going to look, if Luck comes out, which we don't know, Gabbert has decided to. You're looking at two of the finer prospects. And then you look at Mallett later on, Locker, who's going to be a project. Who knows what Cam Newton's going to be? I like the kid Dalton from TCU. This could be a really, really special quarterback class.
So with Luck, you just so you got Elway who's in place.
Yeah.
Harbaugh, who might be looking for an NFL job.
Yeah.
And you have Andrew Luck, and you have Denver has the number 2 pick,
Yes.
one spot behind Carolina.
Yes.
I had a friend of mine, my friend Jay, emailed this scenario today, and it was like, well, yeah, they could flip picks and give Tebow to Carolina, but it would seem like the bar has been set so high for trading up for a quarterback in a draft. They'd have to put in a lot more than just Tebow and flipping picks.
Okay, a couple things here. This was Mort and I last night after the show's dinner. This is what we talked about all night. I mean, think about the possibility of the trifecta here. Elway, Harbaugh, Luck in Denver.
All Stanford.
All Stanford. The synergy there, rebuilding an organization, and you're talking about one pick in a year, by the way, that if there's a collective bargaining agreement in place, a new one by April 15th, most likely, speculation, but pretty good speculation, there's going to be a much different rookie salary structure. Carolina wants to go young and cheap. They want to go cheap with their coaches, young with their players, rebuild. I think between picks, I don't know if Tebow's in the mix or not, but I don't think it's a stretch to think they can get to 1.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a big stretch at all. Now, my gut still says the 49ers are players in this thing with Harbaugh.
What pick do they have?
No, with Harbaugh.
No, but I mean, did the 49ers
and that's
can't move
interesting.
high enough,
so
right?
that's what I think's really interesting is now say there's not a new salary structure in place, rookie salary structure, and you're looking, I think the Niners, obviously I don't know the top of my head, I'm guessing based on where they're finished, they're going to be 8 to 10.
I think they're lower than that because if Seattle had lost on Sunday night, they would have had the 8th pick. So San Francisco must have been they must be in the 5 to 7.
Okay.
range,
So what's it going to take to jump that high to get Luck if he comes out? And are they in the Gabbert suite? Maybe do they think they can get Gabbert if they wait? Once again, all speculation. I'm not claiming I talked to anybody or know all this, but you would think that they possibly too could somewhat mortgage the farm. They have over 20 picks in the next 2 drafts. So they have a lot of leverage if they wanted to kind of say, hey, we're willing to take that risk of moving up to that 1 spot and paying all this money for the guy, the guaranteed, $60 million it's going to be, and we'll give a bunch of picks. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility.
San Fran is 7.
7. Nice.
So,
Internet?
I was Googling as you were talking. The thing with Carolina, and we've seen quarterbacks do this a couple of times, and Eli Manning, I think, was the last person who famously did it.
Yep.
You take heat right away, but now I don't think there's 5 people other than outside of San Diego who remember that Eli Manning put his foot down and said, I want to go here and I don't want to go there. It fades away eventually.
I'd do it, and I'd tell a guy to do it. You talk to a lot of quarterbacks, and this is a very interesting conversation. Every quarterback you talk to, you should ask this question. How much does your situation, the environment you go into, the team, the structure, the general manager, coach, whatever it may be, how much does that help or inhibit your ability to succeed? My guess would be 90% of the quarterbacks you talk to, from Hall of Famers to colossal failures, are all going to say it's way more than anybody thinks. It's probably the biggest part of a quarterback's success or failure. It's a very dependent position. We make a lot out of it as being, quarterback driven, the gods of sport and this and that. It's as dependent a position as there is in sports. I mean, you can do a lot of things right and look really bad. I'll never forget, I went through a streak in Tampa, not to bring myself in this, but I was being graded out in the 90s. They do these grading systems like 96, 93, 94, playing flawless, great decisions. My quarterback rating was like 70. And at one point, I'm like, what, we obviously got to do, we're doing something wrong here if I'm playing the way you are telling me to play and I'm looking like an idiot doing it.
Well, I still think Brady's second best year ever. 2007 was his best year. The year before, when he had Rashae Caldwell as his number 1 receiver, a washed-up Troy Brown, Ben Watson who couldn't catch, Kevin Falk was his number 1 receiver basically, and they came within a 3rd and 3 of making the Super Bowl. That was his second best season ever.
I agree. It's very interesting. The whole conversation's interesting about all that. So, if you're Luck, heck yeah, you say I'm not playing for you, Carolina. Owner, you haven't proven that you're willing to invest. there's a lot of holes in that team. They haven't had receivers. Steve Smith's a dynamic weapon, but I wouldn't call him a polished, dependable receiver all the time.
You want to go to Carolina, and it has nothing to do with the small market thing. It has what you said before, was that they want to cut costs and hire a chief coach. And once you start hearing that stuff, you want to go to a situation where the owner's going to spend money, where people care, and where you have a chance to win, and also you get paid.
Amen, brother.
Those would be the four things. Let me ask you about I have a theory about quarterbacks, and I was big on the Tebow thing. And I know, there's all these ways to pick him apart. He'll never be totally accurate, blah, blah, blah. But to me, and I've said this over and over again, quarterbacks, it's not just about the talent. It's about the personality. It's about the leadership abilities that the guy has. It's about his ability to inspire the people around him to maintain a certain level of play no matter what the circumstance is, no matter how many nerves are kicking in. And you look at somebody like Breeze, what would you break down his talent versus the intangible stuff? Wouldn't it be like 60-40?
This is a huge conversation. I'll try to give you the...
I know. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to spring this on you.
Hey, it's the best conversation. No conversation gets me more excited than this one.
Okay.
Okay. I think here's where you have to start. You have to start with everything you said is absolutely correct. I'm the biggest advocate of quarterback's job is to make everybody else better. And you can do that a lot of different ways. Okay, inspire. I think inspiration is a great term. I'm not a motivation guy. I'm an inspiration guy. I think you truly can inspire people around you. We talked about being the most dependent position. Also, another one of my phrases I use a lot is it's the most influential position in all sports. I mean, you influence everybody with this position, not just your teammates, coaches, your fan base. How about the secretary in the front office whose job depends on whether you throw 2 touchdowns or 2 interceptions?
Well, it's the famous Montana story of the Super Bowl right before the big drive, and he's like, hey, is that John Candy?
Exactly.
And the whole team, loosened up.
Exactly. Great example there. So, yes, I believe in everything you say, but here's the problem, is that how do you weight everything? And you have to have enough of the other stuff to ever be able to produce to a certain degree that gives you the opportunity then to inspire and use all your intangible qualities to make your team better.
Yeah.
Tebow's a fascinating example. Now, I was never a guy that destroyed Tebow.
He might be the best example, by the way.
But I didn't drink the Kool-Aid either. I tried to be a middleist because I definitely see and recognize all the qualities that we know of Tim Tebow as a person. Let's just call them intangible qualities.
Yeah.
But then you look at from a physical standpoint, and his flaws are so major that the question is, does he have enough of the ability to play the NFL game from a fundamental standpoint, from an execution standpoint, to ever last long enough and produce at a high enough level to allow that to come out? And I really didn't know the answer. Now, I like that he's improved a lot, but there's still, huge flaws. At the end of the day, you have to play this position from a very condensed space. Okay, so great quarterbacks or productive quarterbacks play in really tiny, cluttered spaces. And you have to be compact and short and accurate and blah, 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 blah. We can get all the football vernacular, quarterback vernacular. He doesn't do that and has never shown the ability to do it. So what's to make you think that he has enough then to go 20 games into his NFL career and show enough before guys start going, gosh, yeah, I love him. I love him. And those of us that have daughters go, I wish he'd marry my daughter, but I really don't want him playing quarterback for me, because on 3rd and 8 in the fourth quarter, when they're bringing 5 people and playing a blitz zone behind it, and you have about a 2-foot square area to release the ball 20 yards down the field, he consistently can't do it.
So then you see something like inside the NFL last week. I don't know if you saw it. They had Tebow mic'd.
Yeah.
During his comeback.
Uh-huh.
And at one point he runs over. I think they get first. They're inside the 10 with a chance to go ahead. Yeah. He runs over to the coach. And he goes, only one guy touches this ball right now. And you're watching it. You're getting goosebumps. You're like, I believe it, Tim Tebow.
And you know what? That's great until it doesn't work.
Right.
And that's the reality of the NFL. is that is awesome that it worked and that he said it and everybody caught it, and it adds to the legend. And, I buy it too that, there's something there. But then it's not going to work. And the running back goes, wait a second, why didn't I touch the ball? And the receiver goes, gosh, I'm killing this guy in this post route, 4 straight weeks in the red zone, and the guy can't get me the ball.
It didn't work last week. They played San Diego. They were down 2 scores, fourth quarter, 4th and 2 midfield.
Yep.
Coming out of a timeout, and they ran the old Tebow running to the left QB draw play, and they stuffed it.
Yep. Here's another interesting thing on that, too, is, one of the big issues I had when everybody was just saying, gosh, the guy's the greatest leader ever and all this stuff, it kind of cheapens some of these other great leaders, too. So Colt McCoy was in that same draft, and I did a lot of work on Colt McCoy. And you heard the exact same things about Colt McCoy from the people in Texas. And I went back and talked to high school people he played with and his coaches and, people that train. The same thing, right? The same type of guy, but we don't talk about that. There's a lot of other guys that are dynamic leaders. They're unbelievable. They're inspirational people, but they don't make it as NFL quarterbacks. And it cheapens kind of all their intangible qualities to say that Tim Tebow has this quality that no other has. Don't know if I completely buy that, because there's also other stories about the narcissistic way kind of him and his family approach life.
Yeah.
And so we hear a lot of the good, but we don't always hear the bad, and we don't put it in context with some of the other great leaders that are out there as well.
And I think, Brady is another example of somebody that, obviously everybody evaluated incorrectly. And when you read about why did this guy make it versus some other people, one of the things the Patriots loved about him was he was in that terrible situation in Michigan where Drew Henson was the golden boy and Brady, they basically this weird platoon, and it never affected how he played. And I think that was like the number one reason Belichick liked him was he was like, if that guy can live through that, he's ready to be a quarterback. Do you feel like they put enough stock into stupid big picture things like that?
Oh, that's why Belichick's is smarter than everybody else. One of the things I do in my evaluation of quarterbacks is I go and I watch their worst plays in their hardest moments, terrible situations, 3rd and 18, down 2 scores in the 4th quarter. How does he respond? And then, say he throws a pick, or say he throws a dumb pick in the 1st quarter, what's he do the next play, the next throw? You learn a lot about how guys handle those adverse situations, what their mindset is. Does it make them flinch? Flinch is kind of the trigger term a lot of us use, but it's a very proper word to use because you can see whether a guy is indecisive and if he's flinching in his approach to playing the position based on adversity. And what Belichick saw at Tom Brady was that he's in this tremendously adverse, kind of unfair position with Drew Henson, yet he never flinched. It just, Aaron Shea, one of his college teammates and best friends who I played with in Cleveland, used to tell me stories how, Tommy, this chip on his shoulder that he has now was even bigger in college because the Drew Henson thing, it just brought out the best in him. And Tommy plays his best when he's just pissed at the world. Yep. He still talks about, he's pissed off about being in the 6th round or whatever it was, and he thinks about it, goes into production meetings with Monday Night Football, and the first thing he says, can you believe I was the 199th pick or whatever it was?
Right.
But that's good. Because he's learned how to let that adversity fuel him and motivate him. And so a lot of these guys, the Vince Youngs, some of these guys that have nothing ever goes wrong for them early on, those are hard to evaluate. Those guys are hard to evaluate because you don't know how they're going to respond when it gets tough.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I think Aaron Rodgers is somebody that you didn't totally know that he had that in him until you saw the way he handled the Favre situation. It's like, wow, this guy's...
That's a great point as well. I've known Aaron since he was in college and used to work out with him when he was in college in the off season, and he's just always had that chip because he was a JC guy, wasn't recruited. The only reason he went to Cal, it's a funny story. My stepfather, who's a Cal alum, we've known Tedford forever, calls Tedford and said, hey, go up to this junior college up near Chico and check out this offensive lineman. Tedford has a favorite of me because we've been friends forever, listens to my crotchety old stepfather, and goes and checks him out and happens to see this quarterback named Aaron Rodgers and goes, dang, he's pretty good. And that's how Aaron Rodgers gets to Cal.
It's funny when you meet some of these guys, and I met Brady and I met Manning, I met a couple others. They do have similar qualities about them. Like there's a regalness about them. there's kind of a command of the room. They're just used to having all eyes on them and being the center of attention, but they're not afraid of it. They don't have a need to like totally impress anybody. And I think Breeze is the latest guy who kind of fits into that. Just seem like relatively normal guys for what their situation is, right?
Alpha males. It's one of the biggest things I look at. I got a lot of flack when Sanchez, I did the evaluation of the Sanchez-Freeman Stafford draft. And I had Sanchez 1, Freeman 2, Stafford 3.
Yep.
And everybody thought I was off my rocker. Oh, I was just trying to make a statement, blah, 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 blah. And I'd done the work. And the thing that flipped me on Sanchez, why I'm still a believer, is, and I use this analogy, I got this from somebody very close to all those quarterbacks that year, and they put Tebow in the mix. They said if Stafford, Sanchez, Freeman, and I think they used Colt McCoy and Tim Tebow all went to an SUV to go grab a burger, they would all flip the keys to Sanchez. He's the alpha.
Interesting. I like that.
He's the alpha male that other alpha males will follow.
Yeah.
And that, now, you've been around some of those testosterone-driven alpha male rooms, right? I mean, I've been in a lot of them. It's a battle of egos. Now, it's a battle of personalities. And the one guy that usually, everybody just shuts up and listens to, that dude's got some stuff to him, right?
Yep.
That's a big-time NFL quarterback. And
I'm glad you mentioned Freeman because he definitely has that quality.
Yeah, and listen, there's very, very few, if any, exceptions to that. And then you look at, I don't want to bang on some guys, but this guy I don't mind banging on, Elvis Gerback and Tim Couch and Achilles Smith, and they were talented, okay? They're very talented. Elvis Gerback could go out and throw a football like nobody's business, beautiful, it looks wonderful, but they're not that personality. And if you don't have that personality, if you're not comfortable in your own skin carrying that burden of that personality, you don't have a chance because this thing, Bill, is brutally hard. I mean, it is so hard. Emotionally, physically, mentally, you better have some juice to you. You just better believe you're better than everybody else.
I won't say who the QB was, but I was out a few years ago with a friend of mine who knows his big in the sports circles, knows a lot of people, and this young QB came up and put 5 minutes of time in, then he walked away, and my friend was like, that guy's a loser.
Yep.
And I was like, really? So you're out on him? You're just because of his personality, you're out on his career? He's like, yeah, he'll never make it. And by the way, he was right. He never made it.
Listen, it's not hard many times. I've been in a lot of locker rooms, and it's usually the offensive linemen that get it first.
Yeah.
You go to any room, talk to some offensive linemen, and it's not the old take them out, drink beers. That's an old thing, and there's some truth to that. But, at the end of the day, those big fat guys, as I call them, they have a great pulse for whether that guy pulling the trigger has the brass, let's be politically correct, has the brass to do what it takes.
So you think Luck has that?
Oh gosh, yeah. Watching him practice, he's an assassin in between the lines. I mean, he's out at practice just wanting to step on your throat.
Yeah.
I mean, just competitive and getting after it and trying to get better. And did you see how his teammates responded to him last night?
Yeah.
I mean, every one of them went over and just indebted almost.
I think Kevin Durant has that quality too, and I think
that.
part of it is you're pulling for other guys. And you don't care who succeeds, just that the team succeeds.
Yep.
Which is kind of the final level to get to. And Durant really doesn't care who makes the biggest shot. Whereas I'm not sure some of the other NBA guys, they're glad they won, but I think they kind of secretly wish, I wish I had. We have 5 minutes to talk playoffs. So let's roll through this.
All right.
Although I love the QB. I'm glad it went in that direction. That was fun.
Yeah, it is fun.
You're down on the Colts. I heard you on Coward yesterday. You said that in some areas they are terrible. Was the quote used.
Yeah, their linebacking core. Here's the easier way of saying it. They have to put all their chips in one place on defense. So they got to be all in to stop the run, or they got to be all in to stop the pass.
So any balanced team beats them.
Yeah, because they're not skilled and instinctive enough as a group, without banging on one particular group, to adjust on the fly. It's a balance down. It's 1st and 10. You're in a one back, 2 tight end set, kind of run pass 50-50, got a little run action at you. They're either I'm all in on the run or they're dropping back and pass. And that's the only way they stop people. Now, they stopped people in the run the last 3 weeks, but they had 1 sack and 39 attempts on Kerry Collins. That just says it right there. they have to guess right. And maybe I give the Jets too much credit. And I've fallen victim to this a couple times this year, giving them too much credit. I got to believe Brian Schottenheimer's sitting there going, oh, man, I can get in this set, put these people on the field. They're all over the Power O run game. And I got Santonio Holmes on a 10-yard crosser behind it that's going to be absolutely stealing.
But on the flip side, the Jets, they don't really have a pass rush, so they have to do all these gimmick blitzes and stuff. And Manning that's like feeding him, turkey on a plate with cranberry sauce and mashed potatoes. He's going to eat it up.
No doubt it scares
So
me.
this could be a high-scoring game, you're thinking?
Yeah, I kind of like, I think the Jets win this game. It's going to be one of those 27-24 games. You know what I mean? Where the Jets really rolled on offense and they possessed the ball. The Colts will score. But, you also, Austin Collie, Dallas Clark lost. That's a trust thing for Peyton. It's not necessarily a production thing. It's a trust thing. It's those, I got to throw this thing. Not like that 46-yarder in the AFC Championship game. Yeah. I froze this thing yesterday when Peyton throws the ball. Austin Collie, there's no way he's going to be open. Yeah. You don't make that throw unless you just completely trust a dude.
It's funny? That's how the Patriots... They should have won the Super Bowl in 2006, and I always say this, but it came down to that 3rd and 3 play, and because they had let Deion Branch go and they got a number 1 pick for him, congratulations. But that was the guy Brady trusted, and he would have gotten open then that 3rd and 3, and they would have won the game and they would have won the Super Bowl. And if you don't have that one guy, and I agree with you, he still has Wayne, but not having the Dallas Clark is obviously big. I do think he had so much chemistry with Collie, and that's out the window.
Yep.
So, obviously they're not going to win the Super Bowl. You're thinking Pat Steelers? Is there any way that doesn't happen?
I think the Chiefs can really give the Pats some problems.
What?
If the Chiefs can get through Baltimore, look at familiarity with the Patriots. That's been one of the formulas. Now this one, I'm trying to condense this. Brady, the interception, the lack of interception streak is amazing. 335 to end the season.
He's had a little luck with it.
A little luck. But here's the one thing that Romeo Crennel, that defensive staff can do. One, Tom Bali can get around the corner. So you got to devote extra people to him. So the pass rush issue. Okay? Number 2, they can play too high defense most of the game, which makes it harder. Not impossible, makes it harder. Deflected balls at the line of scrimmage. If there's one thing I want anybody to keep their eye on in this entire playoffs is the Patriots passing game is intermediate to short and between the numbers. If I was coaching a defense playing the Patriots, there's 2 things you have to do. One, you got to identify Tom Brady's starting point in each read. So where does he start his eyes? Okay? Identify that, and then as you rush the passer, understand the timing of which the ball is going to come out and and where it's going to be, where it's going to be dispersed to. Mm-hmm. Right? Once you figure those 2 things out, now as you rush the passer, you get your hands up. And deflected balls, it only takes 2. 3.
I hate you for mentioning this.
It's horrible.
Well, no, because I'm a Patriot fan, and this is the fear is when their entire offense is predicated on just this timing and precision and these short things. And once it gets disrupted, even for 2 straight plays, you think, oh, my God, it's over. They're on to us. Yep. The rug has been pulled out.
That's the thing. I'm telling you, I don't think Kansas City is nearly as good as but this is a coaching league now. It is about coaching and getting your players to do what their coach is doing. If the coach is smart enough, that's how you defend Tom Brady in this offense.
But you don't think that the flip side doesn't work where they're like, we know Charlie Weiss and Romeo Crennel, we know exactly what they're going to do, and we're going to beat it this way, and this way?
No, I think that's part of it. Hey, listen, I'm not betting against the Patriots. You want me to put money on it, I'm putting on the Patriots getting the Super Bowl. I'm just saying I don't think the road's going to be as easy as everybody's saying.
All right, you have to go, but who do you have coming out of the NFC?
I got Packers-Saints NFC Championship game in New Orleans, Saints winning, playing the Patriots in the Super Bowl.
Do you buy that the Falcons just went vanilla on that Monday night game because they didn't want to show anything? Because I think that's BS.
It is BS. It's total BS because I know their offense. I've studied it, and they did everything they normally do. That's garbage.
Here's the thing. If you're going to blitz Drew Brees 45 times or whatever the final number ended up being, don't then say that you didn't care about the game.
That's ridiculous. Listen, the Saints took a big chunk out of that Falcons bravado.
I do think, though, don't you think they were just a little too passive in that game? Like, I don't know, in the playoffs, I think they realized from that game we got to actually try to win these games, and we can't just be content to have a lead and back into the win.
No, I'll say this. I'll say the same thing I said to Boomer and TJ and Key and everybody else. We've been wrong for 17 weeks.
Yep.
All of us. Okay, there ain't a guy out there that's been right. It's been a crazy year, right? So, not that any of us have all the answers. But I give the Bears and Falcons very little chance of winning their first game.
Wow.
Yeah, I think both teams are very flawed. And once again, now sometimes I give these other coaching staffs too much credit. I look at it from a coaching standpoint. I would feel very good putting together game plans for the Falcons and the Bears.
I do think it would be hard for the Saints to go in there a second time in 3 weeks and have all the same things go a little bit their way again. I mean, they had the one interception touchdown, but
we haven't disagreed on much. I could see the second one. I thought the first one would be Saints by 10 points.
Yeah.
I think that's what the second. If they have to go there again, I think that's Drew Brees up until that game. Now he did it on the last drive, and I know his completion percentage was good. And I think I'm going to pull these numbers out right off memory. The last three before the last one, he was averaging 77.5 completion percentage, 323 a game. 8 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He owns the Falcons.
And you believe in that a player can own a team?
Yes, because I had it. There were teams that you played that fit your eye right, that you went into the game going, it's not whether or not we'll play good, it's how good will we play. And I obviously had less of those moments than Drew Brees. But there is no doubt I talked to players before games, text and whatnot, and there's certain guys, quarterbacks, they're never wrong. I mean, I get a text like, I'm going to torch these guys today. And then you sit there and watch it on TV and you're like, oh my gosh, he's prophetic. He just torched them.
Good way to end it. Trent Dilfer, a pleasure having you on. We'll have to have you on a bunch of times in the future. But for all the playoff stuff we left out, people could just watch you on one of the other 19 ESPN shows you're going to be on this week.
Exactly.
And you'll get all the opinions out.
And that was a blast, man. I'll do it anytime.
All right, Trent. Thanks.
See you, pal.
So I get to sign off. Whoa.
Thank you for downloading the BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Too much fun.
Check out more podcasts at the iTunes Music Store or at PodCenter at ESPNRadio.com.
Peace out.